Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much again for joining me here. I hope you're having a great day. Let's take another look here at Bitcoin, see what's going on. Oh my, what a correction from yesterday. That is awesome stuff, I guess, depending on how you look at it. I think it's awesome in a small way just because, you can dollar cost average a bit better, but about 7.5% correction from top to bottom, roughly from yesterday morning till sometime early last night. So again, not a great 24 hours there for Bitcoin, but I still think there's a lot of meat left on the bone here. We could see further downside, just going to throw it out there based on liquidation and this point of control that we're entering that range. I still think we're going to retest that 90 to 91K area. Again, I'll show you the reasons why, partially because we're mostly bearish on majority time frames, but also again, liquidation has a lot to do with it, and that's half the reason why we saw the price running last night, sweeping a majority of that liquidation. I did anticipate, or rather, I would have liked to have thought that 93,000 would have held as a support. It tentatively has, if you will. If you look at the candlestick closures here, you can see that golden pocket essentially holding. The price action didn't close much lower than that. So that is a good sign, good consolation, but again, that'll only hold for so long. We can update our fib levels here as well too. I'll do that afterwards. I'll post a playout chart in our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. In the meantime, let's look at some liquidation levels and kind of just verify a few things. While this is loading, I ask you kindly hit the like button, comment below. Let's see how many likes we can get in this video here today. We were starting to get better, more consistent likes, so I appreciate that very much. Thank you again to everyone who has contributed. Now let's take a look here on the left-hand side, this last 7 days of liquidation. We can zoom in the last 12 hours too. Well, the simple way to understand it here is that there is still a good chunk of change down between 88 and 89,000, as those are heavy concentrations of liquidation. Each one of these red bars is about $2 billion. The yellow and red, or the yellow rather, is about 1 to 1.5. I can't count that all up right now, but I can tell you that's a lot of liquidation here still left to be swept. So just know that that's available there. If we look at the bigger picture here as well, we're closer to that concentration, a little easier to see here. Probably easier to count up as well. I would say ballpark of 50, 60 billion if you were to kind of, just kind of randomly guess for the moment. I'll add it up later. I'll post that later. I'll provide that with our trade alerts too. If you're not familiar, I do provide trade alerts here in our community, just to kind of give you a heads up on coins I'm planning to take trades with. And again, I did mention that yesterday it was worthwhile to keep the current short position open because we had a short from 98,000 and we triggered 3 out of 4 targets. So congrats on that. We did offset some of that profit though with a stop loss on Polkadot, which is kind of a bummer because it's still a very strong coin. It just kind of lost its little support there for the moment. I'll cover that later, of course, but that was a slight bummer because again, Bitcoin is supposed to hold this range. It was doing pretty well. Asian markets open, they had a different prerogative, right? That's pretty consistent though. A lot of times Asian markets, I'm starting to notice, they'll continue the trend that's been started by the US markets. So we started the trend of selling off, pretty heavy selling pressure from 98 to 94. And then they went from 94 to 91, 5, 92. Anyways, let's take a look at the last 12 hours just to quickly verify, see what's going on here. This oftentimes tells us a lot about where the price action could go next first. We can see 95 to 96,000 has some areas there, some late shorts, so to speak. So there's a decent chance that could get swept, but majority of those late shorts already did. If you see here, there's a big old chunk of liquidation, somewhere in the range of 2 or 3 billion right there at 94,000. So I'm feeling like we're starting to hit our top. Let's go ahead and scroll down and see what open interest looks like. Before we do that, let's look at liquidation levels and just recognize that liquidation delta is getting pretty heavy on shorts, 10 billion liquidation shorts. While this is kind of a newer number, it's nothing super concerning. I know it's like, oh wait, it's super huge, it's going to turn around. The truth is it'll taper off a little bit, but for the most part, we've seen Bitcoin at 10 to 12, 10 to 15 billion liquidation delta for quite a few days. With this being like a half a day in, I'm not super concerned with it. We hold this level or maintain this level for another 3 or 4 days, then I would say it's time to take a long. Okay. For right now, it makes a lot more sense to stay on board with a short scenario here and to consider shorting some coins today. And I'll explain more about that too. Open interest though. When we look at this here, let's zoom in a little bit more. We can see heaviest concentrations of open interest, 98,000. What do you know? People are heavy at 98K and they are absolutely upside down right now. Same thing with 97.5. So those were the 2 areas that people really added to their position while the price action was in that range. Seems crazy to me. I don't know. I can't justify buying Bitcoin in the 90,000 range. Granted, leverage, different story, of course. We've been going up and down with Bitcoin, but the truth is, yeah, like adding to your spot bag, it just seems weird to me. I'm sorry, I'm just not used to the price action yet, or the price point. But that's a conversation for another day. We can see here from before and recent, 93.5 is also that local point of interest there for folks. So that could reflect on the charts. Let's double check and see. Looking at the daily time frame, we'll go with this here first as kind of a baseline. And again, folks, I mentioned this yesterday too, or actually no, it was the day before. It's when we took a short on, I think it was Saturday evening rather, we had a stochastic divergence on the RSI here, basically that second stochastic swing. And if you know anything or you learn anything from me when it comes to stochastic RSI, I don't use it all the time. It's just a complementing factor, but it was contributing with other things. However, we had a second stochastic swing, and usually the second ones you want to pay more attention to. Because again, the first time is usually a failed attempt. In other words, the first time to try to sell off the buying pressure. But the second time, everything's been worn down, and it generally takes the second time around. So once more, second stochastic swing in either direction, you're probably going to find more consistency in that actually happening. We were also officially diverging in the MACD here as well. This is, I wouldn't say monumental by any stretch, but it's our first divergence in for what seems like forever. Last divergence was November 2nd, and that's when the price action did this right here. So to give you perspective, MACD divergences are not 100%. As you can see, we saw a MACD divergence right around here, this little guy. 3 or 4 days later, it just took off. All right. So not to say it's going to do the exact same thing here, but that is a possibility as well. So be careful being a late short. The truth is, right now we're kind of halfway through this progression. I think that you could still find some benefit shorting coins today or soon. However, you got to recognize too that there's like this knee-jerk reaction that occurs in the market. We want to pay attention to a few other things. Suffice to say, everything else looks pretty decent. We're at 60, 70 in the RSI, just kind of hanging out there. Money flow index pulling back. I say decent in the sense that it's not great, but it's certainly not an ultra bearish situation. We're still over most moving averages, still in decent shape. While we did lose our short-term ascending trend, we're going to just kind of redefine and see if there's any other trend lines we need to pay attention to, such as a descending trend. But the price action is kind of choppy here with that last little wick up there to 99K, that fake out, so to speak. The descending trends are kind of weird and hard to identify. We're just going to go ahead and pay attention to the moving averages here, which we're below the 20 and the 50. So there's some confluence here at 95.5. So my speculation is that we're going to see some resistance at 95 and or 95.5, just based on the simple fact that we got some of those areas there kind of confirming. We also got our previous support, which didn't work much as support at all. Basically, it was just a previous high, and you want to see if it works as a support level, which it didn't, but it could work as a resistance too. So my speculation is that we're going to see some resistance in this range here coming up. But Bitcoin has to close above 94.7 today in order to have a leg to stand on. And what I mean by that is, if we look here, we kind of zoom in. Obviously, previous high turns into a new low. Didn't work as a new low, but instead it worked as a new high. So we saw a good 12-hour period here yesterday, midday, when the price action couldn't cross 94.7. So with it coming up to that range again, we're going to need a lot of volume to be able to blast through that. Okay, so my expectation is 94.7 to 95. Let's just say round number 96,000. 94.7 and 96,000 would be a potential resistance range for us. Okay, but for right now, the support range didn't hold very well, but we can see that fib level and or just that 93 to 94K range holding as a tentative support. Other than that, we are still under 50 on the RSI, which is generally unfavorable. Stochastic swinging up. We can see money flow index increasing here, but just kind of that natural, again, knee-jerk reaction to the price action being overextended. Everyone's wanting to buy. But you got to recognize folks with a lot of money, they're going to sell, and start hitting some of these lower levels here. So I'm still leaning more towards the price action hitting 91.5 or lower, but just know 91.5 has been that previous support level, and it could work again moving forward. So let's take a look at the Ichimoku Cloud and just confirm, yeah, there is zero reason to consider taking a long position right now. This is telling us, though, that the conversion line and the baseline are slowing down, so we're losing momentum, of course. Lagging span getting closer to the price action, that does imply securing profits on your short position before it's too late. I personally don't feel like worrying much at all because, again, we got this resistance range, a lot of confluence in this area here. So my money is on 94.7 to 95.5 being a pretty solid resistance level and the price continuing lower. I think that's going to happen there. And then what else was it? Somebody also highlighted, I think it was Dave in our community, that there's like an inverse cup and handle pattern on the, what is it, on the hourly? Is that what it was? So I think it was something along these lines. And they can get a little confusing sometimes, but generally speaking, it's not like the cleanest one, but I could see where your mind's at. I'm not drawing this out very well, but the truth is we could very well see the price action pull back here, because a lot of times the price will consolidate in a previous resistance range, or in this case support, and then inevitably pull back down. So again, that's a bit of a stretch, but it does confirm, or sorry, more so it runs concurrent with what we see here so far, and a lot of potential reality in the fact that the price action should pull back. Again, there is a decent amount of volume here, and the volume has increased since we've reached this range. So we got to respect the fact that there's a lot of volume. If the volume starts to slow down and the price goes a little bit higher, that's a case in point where you maybe want to consider a short. Between now and then, we want to see here today if the daily candle can close above 94.7 for starters, but also, how does it respond to this range it's entering here soon? If it gets rejected multiple times, I think we're more likely to see the price pull back. Either way, that's kind of where we're at there. I hope that makes sense. I described that correctly. It's never clear and concise when situations like this occur. A lot of times the best thing to do is just kind of hang out on the sidelines. And I know some people dislike that I say that, but it's just the responsible thing to do. In hindsight, I probably should have waited to take that dot trade too, but it looked primed and ready to go. But unfortunately, Bitcoin had one more last little sell-off it had to perform first. So that's just how it works, folks. You take it in stride. Make sure you minimize your loss, maximize your gains, of course, and don't try not to overtrade either. It's really common to be just jumping in willy-nilly in situations like this, and it's not really all that healthy. Let's just wait for better opportunities. I think once we define a specific range, we get a rejection off this range here, there would be a solid direction to set, but I'm leaning more towards, I would say shorting, because I do feel like Bitcoin has a little bit more, again, meat left on the bone to the downside. Just based on liquidation, there's a lot more motivation to push the price action lower than higher. All right, folks, I hope that made sense. I described this correctly. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks again so much for watching. Be on the lookout. I'll post our plot chart on our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord here shortly. We also have a benefit here with Bitunix. Folks, check them out. Awesome prize pool benefit. Link down below for them. I hope you have a good one. Thanks again for your time. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.